Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. We welcome you once again. It is such a joy for me and for Louise to be here together and to continue with this, what I consider, Louise, a journey through an extraordinary world. What world am I talking about? Well, the world of mediumship. And Luiz Lima will be here with us, guiding us in the next few minutes together. Just so you know, this is our seventh and final main episode of our series. But in the series so far, right, Louise, and correct me if I miss anything, but we've been uncovering layer by layer, the mechanics that is so difficult to understand, but those mechanics that underlie spiritual communications, beginning with the foundations of mediumship itself, moving through the nature of the one who's doing this in the physical plane, right? The medium, and I would call it almost the marvels of what we call that phenomena, especially the physical materialization phenomena that's so difficult for many to truly understand. We went on to talk about psychometry, ideoplasty, what else, Louise? Paris spirit. So there's so much information in the series that we've corrected thus far. But each step, Louise, brought us closer to understanding the harmony between spirit and matter, mind, energy. But as I said, we are on our seventh and final main episode of this series. And I just want to say, don't you worry. The journey isn't over yet. In next time we meet, we will have drum roll, a special question and answer session where we'll dive into your reflections, your questions, even curiosities, and anything, any comments that you may have about everything we explored. Of course, we have a time limit, so go ahead and send us by using the chat window today and in the former episodes your thoughts so that we can present next time we meet. Right? I just think, Louise, it's going to be an inspiring and interactive experience. And because this is Q&A coming up, not to diminish today's episode, but since we have this Q&A, I just want to invite everyone. This is our seventh episode, so catch up if you haven't had a chance to do so. Catch up on all our previous episodes from 1 to 6, and each episode builds, as I said before, that piece of the puzzle. So when you watch them, and I don't know, Luis, that you have to do in sequence, but if you watch them, maybe they will lead you to a deeper understanding and appreciation for this journey. So, as I said, please watch, submit your questions in the chat of each episode, and we're collecting those for when we meet again. I just wanted to say that the more than a study that can be very difficult, right, Louise? It's such a dense material, so difficult for so many when they read the book. This small book, but it's really so dense. But what we're trying to do with this series, of course, it is born out of Louise's genius and commitment to simplify a very complex study. We're bringing not just processes and mechanisms, but it's really how we can touch in our own uh, understanding of our contact with the beyond. So with this we're bringing you a sense of hope, compassion, and even light, right, luminosity, enlightenment, so that we can understand how love, how that spiritual dimension meet with our thoughts and our feelings as well. But as always, this exploration has been guided by, whoa, the brilliance of the spirit author André Luiz in the just really the classic work, right? Luis, Mechanics of Mediumship. And this book specifically was psychographed by, sorry, Francisco Cândido Xavier and Waldo Vieira. And as to me, it's just, it remains as one of the most profound contribution to spiritist science, where that the spiritual knowledge meets the scientific language, but also gives light, right? Right, light to what we don't understand. So just wrapping up here so I can go to the to the background. Luis Lima is helping us navigate all those ideas, bring clarity, and even some practical tips. And he is here once again to provide to me, Luis. You bring just understanding and clarity in concepts that are not so easy. For those that may not have met Luis before, he is from Rio in Brazil, and he came to the US where I am in 1990. And that's when, right, Luis, as an adult, he discovered Spiritism and the Spiritist literature. But he didn't just discover it, he really embraced it. And since that time he's been an active, engaged contributor, bringing discussions and talks and lectures on the subject spiritism. And he does that both, and that's thanks to the fluency in both languages, Portuguese and English. He is also right now commuting, right, Luis, from two different countries. So I believe he is in Porto today, from in Portugal. I am in Nashville, Tennessee, and we come together with you wherever you are. Luis has a background in engineering, which tells a lot for me, especially how he can put it all together in a way that we can understand. But he also has a professional career in the computer network industry, and I cannot thank you enough, Luis, for your thoughtful analytical approach to topics such as this. So, with that, I want to say, everyone, settle in, enjoy this final main episode, and get ready for the upcoming Q&A question by sending your questions, your reflections, so that we are able to really meet where you need. Luis, thank you so very much, and we'll talk later.
Okay, thank you so much, Marcia. It's been such a blast to be able to produce the series and do it with your help, of course. But it's something I've, when I started Spiritism 20 plus years ago, I've always wanted people to understand myself, of course, in the first place, to understand mediumship. It's really interesting. And the book, by the way, it's the purpose, the overall purpose of the book, The Mechanics of Mediumship, is a scientific study on mediumship. That's why it could be so complicated, technical, and all of that. But let's go for today's program. So I'm going to call this program Mediumship and Moral Conduct. That's going to be our wrap up. Like Marcia said, it's the seventh program that we do in this series. And this has to do with how mediumship and morality, they interconnect, because they do. They interconnect. And we're going to develop some ideas here, bring up some ideas to discuss this subject. So as we know, mediumship is a faculty that allows communication between incarnate spirits and discarnate spirits. However, mediumship itself, not the mediums, just the faculty, mediumship itself is morally neutral. It's not good, it's not bad, it's not right, it's not wrong. It's absolutely neutral. I'm talking about the faculty. Now, the way that we use the faculty is where it might take a moral toll if not performed properly and within certain, I'm going to use the word protocols, which we're going to talk about later. So the mediums, who are those that make it happen, they have to, they were being advised a long time ago. They are still being advised. And the book is, the last 2 chapters on the book are very emphatic in talking about how the medium has to be straight, or should be straight, on moral conduct. But more than that, mediumship is an instrument of service. That's the opportunity that mediums have to service and do good. Now, it's an instrument of service to console other spirits, discarnate spirits, to enlighten spirits, to guide souls. These are overall purposes of mediumship. Now, as such, it needs to follow a certain path that guarantees that outcome. So, for example, if the purpose is to console spirits, when the medium is going to participate in a mediumistic meeting or session, he has to follow certain things, a certain path. And everybody within the mediumistic session, not only the medium, everyone, to guarantee that outcome. What is the outcome? Well, we're going to guide souls, we're going to enlighten souls, and so and so. So there are certain things that will create a positive or a negative impact on such meetings. And that has to do with moral. For the outcome to be as expected, we rely heavily on the medium's moral conduct. So we're going to explain why. Now, using mediumship for non-noble purposes can lead to suffering. The medium can suffer from it if he's trying to do mediumship for a non-noble purpose. It's action and reaction is putting in very simple words. Now, for a noble purpose, such as mediumship, it requires noble attitudes. So the medium has to perform his work following or with this in mind. He needs to have noble attitudes. And prayer is what ensures that the mediumship or the mediumistic faculty is used for good purposes. So prayer becomes this, the key. It's become this, ground for everything that's coming up. Prayer is at the base of mediumship to be done properly with a goal in mind. And the goal is very well defined by Spiritism, not only in this book, but in general, starting with the Medium's book by Allan Kardec. So prayer is going to help, I would say, elevate our thoughts, refine our vibrations, especially the medium, so we can align with superior realm, superior spheres. Now, it's not only the medium. A mediumistic meeting has other people who are not performing the role of a medium. You have people sustaining the meeting with prayers, concentrating on good thoughts and things. So for all of these incarnate spirits that are in here, they need to be, their thoughts must be elevated. Their vibrations must be refined. And that's why prayer is critical on a mediumistic session. Actually, we do prayer several times within a session, typically beginning and end. But not only that, during counseling, for example, uh, you're serving a certain discarnate spirit that shows up on the mystic meeting. A lot of times we end up with that discarnate spirit, making him participate in a prayer with us, incarnate spirits. So prayer is very, very, very important. It allows the medium to connect with a medium and others, to connect with good spirits, and that will help filter lower influences and create better, let's say, moral defenses, straighten moral defenses. So all these things, they might seem just like words, but no, when you participate on a mediumistic meeting, the need is there. It's just there, live in front of us. We need to do this. We feel different, a lot better, a lot more, I would say, strong, and in participating with this. In the book that we are dealing with, The Mechanics of Mediumship, André Luiz tells us something very interesting. He tells us more or less like this: prayer creates an energy circuit. Okay, so now we got to stop because this is technical. What is exactly an energy circuit? Very simple words. Let's go by analogy. Think about an electrical outlet that you have in your house. If you look at it, just physically looking at it, there's nothing on it. So it's just there waiting for something to be connected. Until you connect something in there, there is no current flowing. It's just potentially available to you for when you plug in, for example, a TV set. When you plug in the TV set into the electrical outlet, then current starts circulating, and that is a circuit. So a circuit is flows of energy circulating. When you detach your TV set from the outlet, the circuit breaks. It stops. In technical words, and I'm just saying this because that's the word he uses in the book. I'm trying to be the least technical that I can, but in the book, he's going to mention the word, this particular expression. The circuit is closed. What this means is a closed circuit is a circuit where there's something connected to something else. So when you connect, again, same example, your TV set to the outlet, you closed the circuit and now there's energy flowing. So when we do prayer, when we perform any type of work similar to prayer, what we do is close the circuit, but not electricity. It doesn't have to do with outlet. It's not physical current, electricity, it's mental current. So we close the circuit as if we had plugged in ourselves to the spirit world, to the outlet that takes us to the spirit world. So when this circuit is closed, meaning now we are attuned with superior spirits, the higher realms. When that happens, and that's the interesting part about what it says in the book, when that happens, the soul of the medium who is praying predisposes itself to regenerate the equilibrium of corrupted and worn out physical cells. So again, when the circuit closes, meaning we attune to a higher spirit, we open up ourselves to feel better overall, because our physical cells that are worn out, corrupted, they will be taken care of. So it's in benefit of the medium or those praying themselves. And not only that, when the circuit is closed, it also reflects the enlightening suggestions coming from the higher realms. So when the circuit is closed and we attune to a higher spirit, we are completely open, which is good, by the way, completely open for the suggestions, the enlightening suggestions coming from that spirit who we are engaged to because we closed the circuit. So prayer is always, always, always good in any situation, not only in mediumship. In mediumship, it becomes almost like a must because it will protect the medium. Prayer is the protection for the medium and for all participating in the meeting. In the meeting is the prayer works like this vigilance of the soul. So we all need it. That's why it is important, to the extent that it can be, to perform mediumship in a place, in a physical location where you have some sort of protection, or at least you have some sort of protection, participation of high realm spirits, usually on a spiritual center. We don't want to just, let's get to a restaurant and do mediumship. No, it's a very complicated environment. It's hard to attune. You have several different influences. We don't want that. We want a place that is protected for all those participating, so their prayers elevates the thoughts of everyone, and the work can be performed properly. So the prayer works like this. When you do for a work of mediumship, when you go for it, it's like this proper protection equipment. The equipment is the prayer. It protects everybody there. Now, without prayer, it's a whole different story, because the medium and all those participating become more vulnerable to lower influences. Think about this. One of the types of mediumistic meetings, it's not the only type, but one of them, which is, by the way, very typical, is when discarnate spirits, discarnate suffering spirits, show up in the meeting. Of course, that is controlled environment by the higher realms, the higher realm spirits, the good spirits. So these several of these suffering low order spirits are waiting to be serviced. We can use that word. So if we don't have that protection, all of these low order influences are there, so they can have a negative impact on the work. So the medium has to have, straight conduct, pride, vanity, all types of vices. They distort the faculty. So things don't get done properly, and the outcome is not reached. At least not the outcome that is expected will not be reached. So instead of an instrument of consolation, mediumship without prayer becomes this source of imbalance for all participants, because of the potential negative influences that are, in the surrounding spiritual realm. No wonder why Jesus says, watch and pray. He says that for a reason, because of the influences. We are all subject to influences. Now, with prayer, things are different. The medium strength is, the mediums, all of them, strengthen their moral resistance. The communication with the higher realm is more elevated. The medium experiences inner peace. And by experiencing inner peace, very interestingly, mediumship is no longer this burden, and it becomes a blessing for the medium to serve. If the medium thinks, or at least in the beginning of participating in mediumistic meetings, it's not uncommon for newcomers, I would say, these mediums, to think it's a burden. Oh my God, this thing is heavy, because they have not yet experienced this sense of inner peace. It has to be understood, and that will happen with time. So prayer before the meeting starts is not a ritual. It's a necessity. It needs to be done. We must do it to harmonize the group, to protect the environment, to invite the presence of beneficent spirits to be with us and to carry on the service with us. We spoke a little bit about prayer also in one of our programs when we discussed passes. So we had a detailed explanation of how prayer becomes this important thing before healing passes take place in a spiritual center. So I encourage you to, just like Marcia said, we all encourage you to go back and, see all the other programs. Now, think about this. Jesus was healing people. He was, performing a lot of what we call, quotes, please, miracles. So these were healing sessions that he had. So one-to-one, one-to-many. He had 3 or 4 people with him. He would just heal everybody at the same time, or him and one person in particular. Now think about this. Before healing, Jesus would always raise his thoughts to the Father. And he says that in the form of a prayer. So he himself, the Master, the pure and perfect Spirit, the model and guide, if he himself prayed, who are we not to? Who are we not to? He came to teach us something. If he taught us to do that, why wouldn't I? Jesus used and calls for faith in all his healings. Faith means a straight connection with the higher realms. He usually, at the end of healing people, he would say, your faith has healed you. So he was kind of taking these people to a place, to a more elevated place with thoughts and good moral standing, so healing could take place. And he would credit the person, credit the sick, credit those who he supposedly healed, and he is very straightforward. It wasn't me, it was your faith. And at times, and we see that throughout the descriptions of the New Testament, the apostles would fail in certain healing sessions that they attempted. In one of them, they go back to Jesus and says, how can you do and we cannot? And he explains, you have to be on a thought level that connects to the higher realms. And that is done by prayer. Not only, oh yeah, let's cure you, let's heal you here. No, there's a, like I said in the beginning, I used a more modern word, protocol. There's a protocol to make it happen properly. So the outcome is what we expect and what we are targeting for. So, and the question becomes then, this is addressed in the book, was Jesus a medium himself? Well, let's put it this way. What we define as a medium is, we use the word in the sense that it has to be a person who is capable of intermediating a communication between a discarnate spirit and an incarnate spirit. That's not what Jesus was doing. He was not a medium in the classic sense of the word. He was not passing along information coming from another discarnate spirit. So in this sense, we should not say that he is a medium in the common sense of the word. Now, André Luiz refers to something very much higher, and he calls him a medium of God. That's much, much higher. And he performed several things, and we know that from the Gospels, that would demonstrate all these abilities. Turning water into wine is a famous one because it's the first calming, the raging nature when the apostles were trying to fish. He does full levitation on water, direct voice. Those are all physical effects, but he also performed intellectual effects. This ability for clairvoyance, predictions. He did all of these things. And healing. How many, healing stories we have in the Gospels? He was healing paralytics of all types, all different types. Blind people, obsessed people. Because he had the authority, the moral authority to do that. So the work he was doing had the outcome that he expected, he and all of us watching. So morality, or the moral conduct of those participating in a mediumistic meeting, is critical for the process. That's why we insist in Spiritism, we teach and insist so much that the mediums have to watch their attitudes, their behavior. They need to study, they need to practice good things so they can do the work they were given the opportunity to. Because if they cannot, or they fail in doing this work, they're going to have to be given another opportunity at a later time. But for everything that we don't do right, there are consequences. I don't mean bad consequences, but there will be some sort of reaction to the action that we do or not do properly. So, mediums usually, in the beginning of their work as a medium, they have things have to go really slow because they're not. They have to learn these protocols. That's the word I used. And studying is absolutely, absolutely necessary. And on the book here, like I said in the beginning, the purpose of the book is a scientific study of mediumship. We are going to find instructions for the medium and a better moral formation for the medium in the Medium's book by Allan Kardec, which is part of the Spiritist codification. And he's going to study and, at length about the medium, about mediumship, the types of mediumship, why things happen the way they do, what should we do, what we should not do. It's a book that, it's not a scientific book in terms of studying mediumship, not like this one, but it's an overall idea on how the medium what he can do to be more successful. This book here, Mechanics of Mediumship, is more about how things happen. In the beginning of the book, and we speak about this on the first program, the language on the book is very, very extremely technical. Another thing to consider, the book was written in the late 1930s. So André Luiz, the spiritual author, uses different analogies trying to explain mediumship. But what could he use in the late 1930s? We don't have a lot of knowledge. We don't have any, very little knowledge compared to today. The best knowledge we had was about electricity. That's why he uses so much analogy on electricity. Today, if André Luiz would write this book today, he would not start that way, I'm sure. He would start with something like this, as we know from quantum physics and so. Because we are at a much more advanced platform now in terms of technical knowledge, we know a lot more. But that does not in any way diminishes the purpose of this book, which is still to this day, 100 years after, unique. So you take this book with the Medium's book, published in 1861. Those two are they form this bond that explains almost everything about mediumship. So the book ends with morality, prayer, Jesus, for a reason, because anything that is told us before in the previous chapters does not work if the moral is not there. So I hope you like what we did here, these 7 programs. Marcia just told us that we are going to have another separate different program for Q&As, because as we go along, we keep getting questions from the audience, different people in different ways, but we are getting some questions. So we want to address those questions. And you feel free to post your questions as well. So we will see you on another program. Thank you very much. Hope you liked it.
Thank you. I can't wait, Luis. Do you have any final words, any prayer, any inspiring thoughts as we close our last main episode today?
Well, we spoke about prayer, right? So how about a
Yes,
prayer
yes, I love that.
to
Thank you.
sustain, the good thoughts? So let's concentrate on our master, model, and guide, Jesus. Jesus, thank you so much for all of us to have this opportunity to read and study André Luiz books with so much valuable information. Thanks for the opportunity that we have to improve our knowledge, to be able to apply on our daily lives what we have learned and still learning. The journey becomes much easier with you by our side, and we are always, hopefully, we will always be open, all of us, for your presence in our lives. We ask you, Jesus, to comfort those in hospitals in the last days of physical life on earth, that they can make a better transition to the next dimension, that they can be properly helped by those receiving them on the other side. And I usually always ask you, Jesus, for those sitting in prison cells, that they can be also helped, they can understand what they are doing in there. Some of them they simply revolt and never understand what the purpose of what they're going through is. So thank you once again, Jesus, and please always be part of our lives. Thanks so much. So be it.
So be it. Thank you so much, Luis. I'll see you next time. And everyone, thank you for being here with us. Bye, everyone.